Hello, and welcome to another episode of the Addicts Advocate. I am your host, Dusty Dean. It is my pleasure to welcome Mary and Astara with Miracle Messages to the show. How are you?
I'm doing great. Thank you.
Hey, this is kind of a new experience for me. This is the first time I've ever had two other different locations instead of just the one. So this will be a fun experience for all of us. But hey, today's an important day. Miracle Messages is providing a wonderful service, and I found out about Miracle Messages through the power of literature. And this nonfiction book in specific, When We Walk By, was written by a gentleman named Kevin Adler, as well as Donald Burns. And the book is really about the homelessness crisis in the country. One of the things that's really fascinating about this book is that whereas, and I'm guilty of this, I thought that most homeless people were addicts or were severely mentally ill, we're coming to find out that that's not really the case. We're finding that, unfortunately, these are people that the last paycheck came through and they ran out of options. It's an income inequality. It's just purely housing inequality. It can be sometimes healthcare that brings them down. Sometimes it ends up being the foster care system that has unfortunately let down some individuals, and that's the ultimate end result. So addiction ends up being a subset of these people who are having an issue. One of the things that's very profound for me is that, we a lot of times can neglect and just disregard homeless people and not give them a second. But, everyone is someone's somebody. I totally stole that quote from you guys because it's an important quote, because everyone is someone's somebody. It's personal for me because I ended up finding out that the man that raised me wasn't my biological father, and I ended up finding my biological father in my 30s and coming to find out that during that time, before I ever knew him, he spent periods of homelessness. He was a Vietnam vet, had obviously struggled with addiction, was struggling with assistance from the VA, and it was hit and miss for a lot of years of his life. And that really struck me hard because had I known the man, I would have taken him in. I would have helped him. I would have done these things. And it was purely just the lack of connection that he had with people that were able to support. And so Miracle Message is trying to close that gap. And I don't want to really give too much away because I want you ladies to go ahead and tell us all about Miracle Messages. And, and start off with, how long have you guys been around now? And what sort of work are you truly focused on as we stand right now?
Well, thank you, Dusty. And it's wonderful to be here today and to be in conversation with you and Astara. Miracle Messages has been around for 10 years now. We are in our 10-year anniversary celebration. And the work that we are doing is really focused on supporting individuals who are experiencing homelessness to ensure that they have the relational support that they need in order to thrive. And we also support the housed community so that they feel that they have an ability to help support their unhoused neighbors. And so we really look at our organization as having two different components to our work.
I love it. The relational aspect of this all is the thing that strikes me, because I've found that even with individuals who know of those that are homeless, maybe are still actively suffering from addiction, they will check on them. And unfortunately, they don't want the help yet. They're fine in their current situation. And I think a lot of it is the fear surrounding going through a detox on some of the drugs that they're on. It's a very scary, very horrific type of experience that most of the time they feel like they're going to die. And sometimes they unfortunately do if it's not handled correctly, depending upon the type of the drug. And unfortunately, we don't just have the ability just to basically, take them off the streets and say, hey, we can help you. They've got to also reach out, right? It's a two-way street to make these things successful. And I'm obviously never going to tell somebody that the way that they're living is incorrect. Some people prefer to live the way that they live. But at the very least, having at least a lifeline, right? Somebody there that's potentially in their life that maybe they're half a country away, but at least that there's still potentially a connection point there that somebody, because being alone, right, is like the worst disease, right? I mean, it's really, if you're suffering and you're alone, you don't have any support network. How does one even want to get better? And that's one of the things that I've found that's scary about, especially from the addiction perspective, is that a lot of times people are accepting of where they're at in life. And so they fall fully into it. They don't ever try to fight anymore. And that's the unfortunate reality. And sometimes it's purely just the age of life, right? They're like, hey, I'm 50 years old. I've got nothing to live for now. I'm divorced. I don't have a house. And so I've accepted who I am. And there is a better way. And that's one of the things that's so heartbreaking for me, because I've come across people that fortunately they've had that one thing that they held on to. And it's that one thing that literally brought them out of the precipice of a literal hell for them. And it's not to say that it's easy, because even being homeless, right? You get used to a routine, I can imagine, and you don't want to change. You're comfortable, you know your surroundings, you know what you can and cannot do. But now, somebody's now trying to force me out of my comfort zone again. I can see how there might be some resistance with that. And I know also personally that, with malnutrition becomes a lot of horrid thinking, right? If the brain's not functioning correctly because you're homeless, you're malnourished, that's one of the biggest problems that we have there too, is like, until you can get somebody housed and fed, you're not going to probably get through to them. I don't know
Even sleep quality, you know, like if you're not able to sleep, even if your sleep is interrupted or if it's not the best quality, like little differences can stack up and really affect your ability to think clearly and improve your situation.
I know that most of the focus at the beginning of the book writing and the beginning of the research was probably all centered around the San Francisco Bay Area, correct?
Yes, that's correct.
As far as the reach of the program now, how far have you been able to reach and expand your service to?
Yeah, so it's a great question. So right now, our services are provided nationally. Our model utilizes virtual supports at this point. We are starting to provide some in-person activities, relational activities in certain communities. But having said that, the majority of our pockets of work tend to be in the Bay Area, LA, Santa Cruz, Austin, Texas, South Florida, Vermont. And so we do have little pockets. We're starting to explore some opportunities potentially in Denver. So I think while you can really access our services anywhere in the country, and we have volunteers throughout the country and some international people who are volunteering for us, those are the predominant hotspots.
As far as like the boots on the ground operation, what does that look like?
Yeah, so our initial model was providing outreach staff who would go around and talk to people who are experiencing homelessness. At this point, we have been implementing more of a chapter model that the volunteers go to local spots within those communities that I mentioned, and they do outreach in local nonprofits. And then we also do tabling in the Bay Area too. And so like some of our Miracle Messages advisory councils, like members like Astara and other council members will go and do outreach in different community events too. And then some of our programs, and I can, maybe share a little bit more about our program model if that's helpful too, but some of our programs, some of the local hospitals, social workers will also refer into us also.
Yeah, so explain, go ahead and go in a little bit more detail, your program model.
Yeah, I'd love to. And so our model, there's three main programs that we provide within Miracle Messages. The first one is our reunion services, and that's what we initially started doing 10 years ago, where we support people who are experiencing homelessness and connecting with their loved ones. You kind of already talked a little bit about this, Dusty, but it's really around like they might have lost each other for a variety of reasons, and some of those have lasted for 15, 25 years. And then we have these incredible digital detectives who are volunteers who then help reconnect them with their loved ones and really locate the information to make that reunification possible. But not everybody's ready or to reunify with their family. And a reunification program is also a double opt-in. So both the person who's experiencing homelessness and the family or friends need to opt into the services, the reunification services. And sometimes people aren't quite ready on either side of the conversation, or they need more relational supports than what they have with even reconnecting with their family or friends. And so we have what we call our Miracle Friends program, and that is our digital pen pal program. And so we have volunteers, hundreds of volunteers that partner with and get to know their unhoused neighbors. And they talk to each other weekly, bi-weekly, phone, text messaging, and just really connect with each other. And sometimes those relationships last 3 to 4 months, and sometimes those relationships last 4+ years, where some people actually see each other. They join each other for like the holiday dinners and stuff. And then the third program is our Miracle Money program, and that's where we provide basic income to really help alleviate some of the pressure that our unhoused neighbors are experiencing, in order for them to focus on some of the relational needs that they want to help address. And so we provide that through two different programs right now. One is where we're partnering with nonprofits in California, where we're distributing it to their participants. And then we also are providing it to our some of our Miracle Friend participants. And so they're receiving small cash stipends for up to a year. And then undergirding all of our work is really around, the narrative change work and really changing the hearts and minds of this community to really understand the complexity and challenges and the resilience that our unhoused neighbors are experiencing and have. But I don't know, Astara, if there's anything that you would like to add, or maybe your interactions with the different programs that we provide at Miracle Messages.
I had participated in all of the programs, the Reunification, the Miracle Friends, and the Miracle Money, and all of them made a pretty profound impact in not only my my resources, like not just financial, but like relational energy. It also helped me have a drive forward. Like it gave me more to hope for out of life. Like I didn't feel so pushed down by my circumstances. I know that the Miracle Friends and the reunification program really helped like put a mirror up to myself and emphasize the importance of family and friends and the ability to connect. Even though I had been journaling about it, I can read back and realize that that's what I was talking about, like throughout the collapse, the process of ending up homeless again. I didn't know like fully until I got connected with Miracle Messages and started learning about how important those connections really were to just not only like surviving but thriving and building up further. I think I don't know. I'm often impressed by the organizations that I've come across, the people with huge hearts that are trying to help people, but I'm very rarely like floored and left speechless often. And I notice that happens all the time with Miracle Messages.
I can tell. I can totally tell. I can imagine that what you're doing is extremely taxing on the soul, yet so rewarding at the same time. And bless you both and everyone in your team for doing the work that you're doing, because it's not an easy ask. I mean, you're talking about going and interfacing with people that some would consider outright scary, and to be able to have that strength and to go in and just be able to sit there and go, these are human beings. They might not be on the same frequency as I am because of malnourishment or because of addiction, but we're all craving human connection, right? We're all craving somebody to look at us and say, hey, we get you. We understand you. At the very least, we're not shaming you. We don't find you guilty. This is sometimes the unfortunate realities of life. And so, I'm a big fan on trying to pick each other up in this world, because we do a lot of finger pointing. We do a lot of bashing. It's time to go the other way with this. So I commend you both. I had recently a family on that is running a nonprofit organization called Micah's Hugs. And they lost their son to addiction. It was the star athlete, was nobody would ever thought, and he was struggling in and out, and family watched him go in and out of it. We're helping him with it. Ultimately, he passed from it, and so part of their mission is to basically help with sober living scholarships, to keep that remembrance of those people, of the ones that they've lost, throughout events, big billboards, just a myriad of things. But some of the things that they're still doing as well is they're visiting some of his old friends, and they're in a homeless cabin. They visit, bring pizza, they chat, and it's actually his former girlfriend and one of his friends that are basically still living on the streets. They don't want any support yet. They don't want it, but they enjoy the camaraderie, they enjoy the community, the conversations, and at the very least, right, we have to meet people where we're at. Sure, we'd like to think, hey, we're just going to go ahead and eradicate this whole problem, but we know that that's unrealistic. And it's overwhelming, the wealth yet the poverty disparity we have in this country. And we can go into a whole bunch of political realities about that. But at the end of the day, to me, it all comes down to each one of us having that responsibility, even if it means just simply throwing $10 to the gentleman at the grocery store, not knowing if he's going to go and buy booze with it. But at the very least, he's going to have himself something that's going to help him through the day, whether it be some food, maybe it'll be another pack of cigarettes for him. I'm not going to judge. Obviously, we'd like them to make better choices and things like that. But hey, at the very least, compassion goes a long way. As far as like your total like reconnections, do you guys have a number on that as far as how many people you've been able to reconnect with families?
Well, we hit our 1,000 reunification last November. So we have, we have over 1,100 reunions that have happened within Miracle Messages at this time. And we really, like, as we look towards, the next 10 years, we really want to see that grow to 10,000 reunions. And we think that's quite possible. I think the example that you even brought, like, we might not be able to eradicate homelessness, but we can all treat our unhoused neighbors with respect and with dignity, and as a friend or a loved one, like you just gave with that example of the family that goes to visit. And so I think we can actually make sure that all of our unhoused neighbors are seen as people first, and homelessness as a secondary short-term experience that they have to navigate.
With regards to the database, I'm assuming now with the history of doing this work, you have yourself a list of people that you know are in a homeless situation. Is there somebody that's out there now that's maybe looking for their loved one? They can directly reach out to you through your website to get access to see if there is a way to which to
Yeah.
reconnect.
Oh, that's such a great question. That has been our what we call our Find Them program. And so that is when family are trying to find their loved ones that are experiencing homelessness. It's a little bit like it's a little bit more challenging sometimes finding the person that's experiencing homelessness. And there's often a lot of HIPAA and confidentiality that's put in place that helps to protect the individuals. But we are going to be reinitiating that program come the next couple months, where we've been doing some redesign and trying to think about like how do we really effectively like support those reunifications and happening. So, but we don't actually have like a database at this time where people can like reach out to us and see. But that is something that we hope to have in place again in the next couple months.
I'm assuming at the very least, right, somebody could reach out to you and say, hey, I'm this person and I'm looking for this person, and let me know if you come up with anything. I mean, they can kind of at least
Yeah,
do
I mean
that
they
with you, right?
can. I mean, yeah, like they definitely can at this point. I think we'll have a more effective approach, I guess I would say, in the next month or two that might be able to really support them. But I
Okay.
would say the first thing that the first couple things that we would really encourage people to do is they're going to need to file a police report that the person is missing, and so that is going to be the first step across. Like no matter how we help
Got
support
it.
them, that is going to be the first thing that they're going to need to do. And so, as somebody is starting to think about it, like we we will redirect them back to doing that. That is an imperative first step to be able for us to be able to help support them in connecting with their loved ones. So
Is it a bit easier
Good.
on the other side? I'm not sure about like the technical side of it, but like for me, when I was in a shelter and then Miracle Messages had came in and said, "Hey, is there anyone you're trying to reconnect with?" I was trying to find my mom, and I feel like that process was pretty quick, but I also don't know what it looks like on the back end.
yeah, so that one is it is a more straightforward approach if the person that is experiencing homelessness wants to reconnect with their family than the other direction. Because if the family, like often the family will be like, well, I think they might be in San Francisco, for instance. And then we need to communicate with the different programs in San Francisco, and they need to then like, but they can't ever confirm or deny that somebody is there. And so there's like a little bit of like like, so even if we think that we might be in the same location or the right spot, there's like a bit of protection that comes into place. And then in certain communities, if we have contacts, like in San Francisco, there's a volunteer that we worked with for a period of time who would have a lot of relationships with people who are experiencing homelessness, and so they would be a liaison with us directly with the person who's on like directly with people who are living on the streets, which might like allow for us to kind of mitigate some of the they didn't because they knew everybody, they can kind of help us connect with them versus them going through the shelter or the homeless programs. So but it's a bit more challenging in that
Yeah.
direction.
I love the digital pen idea, right? I mean, at least you can continue to build community and let people know that hey, we're thinking about you. It's not just the people that are in your homeless camp, right? There are those out there that want at least for you to know that hey, we see you. You're human, and we want you to know that you're not alone in your struggle. How many accounts do you think you've set up with this whole digital pen, the whole pen thing?
Yeah, I mean, right now in our current year, we have over 300 connections that have happened. And there's been over 340,000 minutes of conversations that have happened
Wow.
since we started this program. So, and that's where that's been like, we've been notified of that. I think there's been a lot more that's happened that we've not been notified with. I mean, it is the relationships that happen and get developed. It's like these little, it's like, you're just like, how did these two people even get connected with each other? It's like magic that happens. And you're like, I don't know. A couple of days ago, I had the opportunity to meet, there was a mother and son who are paired with a woman that is had previously experienced homelessness. The three of them really connect around their faith and have really come together around that and their practices. And it was really quite beautiful to see. I think for us is really around building bridges right now in general. Like, I think there's building bridges between unhoused and housed community. There's building bridges between different sectors that are helping to support our unhoused neighbors. There's and really allowing ourselves to see where we maybe had some misperceptions, to really challenge ourselves, and to really look at like a both and approach right now. And so I think especially in this time and as a society, I think we're really leaning into that space more and really trying to create this opportunity for new connections, and really instead of either or, really leaning into the both and. And so that's one piece. And then the other thing that I would mention, this past year, in addition to our services, we were able to create our Medical Messages Advisory Council. And so our organization from the very beginning was built from what unhoused neighbors had expressed interest to when Kevin, our founder, first started the organization. And we really held this component of people feeding into the different programs in the different development within our organization. But this past year, we developed our Medical Messages Advisory Council, and Astara is one of our founding members of the council, and just really looking at having this cohort of individuals help guide and kind of provide advisement on how we are implementing our services, on different pieces that are being created for external audiences, and then also really thinking about the future strategy of our work too, and making sure that we're really staying true to what is needed by our unhoused neighbors, and making sure that that's helping to guide us moving forward. So I have that piece too.
It's a really cool back and forth conversation. That's the one that I can speak on probably. Well, I mean, the other programs as well, but from a participant standpoint. But the advisory council, I'm excited to see how our feedback and the conversation that we're having with the organization as a whole plays out later on down the line.
I got to tell you that I'm impressed with the amount of thought that's being put into this. Obviously, the longevity is huge, but also just the expansion and the willingness to sit there and keep finding out what more ways can we tackle this problem. And because some would just sit there and I'm doing this one thing and that's it, and you're continuing just to grow, and it's commendable. And hopefully it just continues to get awareness, in people's hearts, because that's where it all starts, right? It starts in our heart. Regardless of what sort of law and legislation we start putting into play, right? Because we've seen how those things happen throughout life and how good or how not good those things work. But it starts in our hearts, and I'm truly appreciative that these things exist out there now, because I know if it was the 80s or the 90s, you might have been in a worse spot than you are now as far as the availability for resources, for the connectivity, and just the simplest of things, right? Because if we can get a bed every night and we can get some food in our belly, then the world opens up the doors. It really does. And we can start actually being positive again, especially when we know that there are those out there that are supporting us.
The more that we can be in conversation and we get to know other people who, maybe are experiencing homelessness, and the more it allows for us to understand and be in conversation and around, some factors that impact people who are experiencing homelessness, around substance use, around mental health, around economic challenges, around family challenges. I think the more that we, instead of looking at it as a blaming that this person is experiencing homelessness because of substance use, but really understanding the complexity around that, allows for us to maybe destigmatizing substance use or mental health more too, which I think across the board under each of those three categories, we almost create a taboo subject, an area of shame versus an area of compassion and empathy and understanding. And until we start to look at people through that compassionate lens, I think it's going to continue to create this othering that will make it hard for us who maybe need support with mental health, substance use. It will make it hard for people to access the services that they might need, or for family who are trying to support their loved ones to be able to get that support. While they're distinct, they all are interconnected. And I think it's a lot of really being in communication and in compassion will help us to start to chip away at some of the barriers and walls that are in front of us.
I agree with you. We've, in just the addiction realm, I recognize on both sides of the equation. I've know what I put my family through, and the inability for them to help to a point, right? You can only do so much, especially when they don't understand what addiction is, right? And it's one of those things. But on the flip side, nobody's going to get sober but me, right? I can't get sober for somebody else. I can't do these things. And so one of the most important things I feel at least from somebody who's down on their luck in a homeless situation, is instilling that drop of hope in them, right? They need that little glimmer of hope. And because if they don't, it's not going to matter. It's not going to matter how much effort you put into it. If they think that it's all in vain, we're not going to get anywhere. So we have to give them little victories, right? Little victories in some way, shape, and form. Obviously, turning your eye to them and recognizing them and their plight, and trying to assist them one-on-one, either reconnections or maybe a small stipend, or maybe resources to get some food somewhere, or maybe a bed for the night. That shows them that, hey, there's hope. Not everybody's turned their back on me. I hope that your organization is here forever, and I hope and pray that you continue to expand and grow. If ever you need a message giver, I will be more than happy to come out and help you, and I'd even be willing to come and get on the streets with you guys, because I need to continue to open up my heart more too. I think we all need to really understand what our fellow man and woman are going through. But I do thank you. Godspeed on your work. Continued success. And I think I've run out of questions for you. Is there anything else you would like to add as a parting? I'm going to obviously give everybody all the information on how they can reach out to you, how they can support you, all of the programs that you're offering, and able to continue to close these gaps, build these bridges, as you're saying.
Sarah, is there anything you want to say?
Yeah, I guess as a parting bit of general advice, I feel called to say that the more we talk about ourselves and our experience with other people, and we connect, the more we realize that, like, we're all in it together. I have yet to come across another person that I have not seen a part of myself in. And it just, be kind to ourselves and to one another. And I know for a fact Miracle Messages is helping in that corner of the world.
I think you just said it perfectly. Astara, I appreciate you. You ladies have a wonderful night. Okay, you keep up the great work, and I'm going to blast this message to the world. Hopefully we're going to get more support and more volunteers and more everything for your message. Okay, you take care, and thank you again.
Thank you so much.
Thanks, Dustin.